Mega Man.
Hello and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person, and today I want to talk to you about Mega Man 3 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. A few things up front for this. I guess I'm going to kind of assume you've been following with my Mega Man reviews. I did Mega Man and Mega Man 2 already, or you already know about Mega Man at this point, and you're just kind of here for, the funsies or whatever, to hear my thoughts and whatever the fuck you guys do. There's also a written version of this you can check out before or after or instead of this one. I've got that linked in the description, so you can check that out if you would prefer, or if you'd like to do it in addition to all the things I said before I mentioned where it was. And what else? I played on the Mega Man Legacy Collection for the Nintendo 3DS. So there's any problems you find with that, I mean, that's neither here nor there to me, but maybe there's something I don't know about it, I guess. Yeah, I think those are all the things I really have to say up front, because that's why you see the footage like that. And I think that's all we need to say before I start the thing, so let's now get to the actual thing. The Mega Man 3, of course, is the third installment in Mega Man, and stuff's pretty simple by now. There's some kind of story for this. They don't really explain it in the opening like they did in the last game. So you just kind of start playing, and I guess I could just look it up and try to explain it, as the booklet probably said it. But the point is, it's just some kind of premise to get you to go to fight 8 master robots and try to beat them and stop Dr. Wily. Same shit, different game. As far as plot goes, it's all just a device to do that all the time anyways. Who really cares about the details when nothing really comes of them during the game, really? So, I don't know. If you're mad about that, I'm sorry, but that's how the game basically presented it to me. If it was more important, maybe it should have been in an opening, set of scenes or something in the game. Anyways, it's a lot of similar gameplay stuff like before. You go around levels, shooting stuff, avoiding obstacles, killing enemies, picking up energy and ammunition, all this stuff. Fighting the robot masters at the end of the stages. You beat them, you get their weapons, you can use those against other robot masters. Some of them are more effective against other ones, some of them are less effective against other ones. It's just kind of the way it works. You beat all of them. An interesting little twist for this one, they actually want you to beat all the 8 robot masters there. In whatever order you choose, and 4 stages have these basically open up again, I guess. So they reuse assets from those 4 stages to basically you go through the stage again, and then you'll fight in each of those 4 stages. You'll fight 2 robot masters from the previous game, which is an interesting thing they threw in there, and I guess that maybe is a little bit of a spoiler for you, but I don't know, it's just a thing. I feel like I kind of had to talk about it because it shows up. And after you do that in whatever order you would like, then you go to the more standard, okay, now here's the linear set of final stages until you get to the end of the game. Pretty simple stuff. They made some additions into here, though, as well, where, one thing, now instead of just having generic, item 1, item 2, and item 3, you get the things that are basically just different ways that Rush can help you. And Rush is this robotic dog that's your companion, who has since become a staple of the series. You start the game with Rush Coil, which you send out, and you can use him basically as a springboard to jump up to really high places. Every time you jump on him, it uses up ammo like your guns would, so you have to fill that up every time you use them if you want to keep using them. You unlock the other 2 by beating certain stages. One is Rush Marine, which turns Rush into a submarine. You can go along water, so you won't just sink like a rock, man, when you're in the water, and you can shoot with it. And you can jump out of the water, but once you're out of the water, you can only really jump. You can't really move around when you're out of that. And when the other one is Rush Jet, I guess, which is turns Rush basically into like a hoverboard, and you can jump on him and then control him freely in the air, and you can shoot while you're on top of him. If you jump, you'll jump off of him. And both of these are just basically they run out slowly as they're out. So if you want to conserve your, I guess ammunition would be what you would say for it, since it all refills in the same way. Your energy, I don't know how you would say it. If you want to conserve that, you could just switch to a different item, or a different like weapon or whatever, and then it will stop them in mid use or whatever. So you can kind of conserve them in here rather than having to leave them out or something. So that's just a little technical thing, just a little tip for you guys on that, I guess. And those can help for different platforming sections and whatnot. Certain sections of the game will be easier with those, and certain sections will actually require them later on. And there's also another, seems like a pretty simple thing, but it can add a lot to your playstyle, is the slide. Where if you hold down and hit jump, you'll slide forward on your back. And you do this to fit under some narrow, like really low-hanging, like passageways, whatever. You can get under some of those, and you can also use it to quickly scoot under enemies, when they jump, so it's easier to get under jumping enemies. Or you can't shoot or jump while you're sliding. Although you can kind of stop your slide and switch directions when you're sliding underneath certain things, like the narrow passageways. You can't stand up in them, so you have to continue sliding when you're under them, but that's basically what that is. It's more of an evasive thing. I don't know. It's new, and I believe it was used all the time after that, too. And I think other than that, that's pretty much... I guess one other thing. One other thing that's a little different here, too, is that you'll periodically have battles with this mysterious robot called Breakman. And it doesn't seem to have a health meter. You just fight him for a while, you do enough damage to him, and then he disappears. He just kind of shows up in certain stages, in certain places. It's kind of interesting. I guess there's actually some plot stuff also at the end of the game, which I don't want to spoil or give away. But other than what happens for that, that's pretty much the game. It's Mega Man stuff, so you kind of know what to expect at this point if you played the previous games. And I gotta say, I was pretty damn impressed with this one. I went into it thinking it was going to be about on par with Mega Man 2, but it went beyond my expectations. I think it looks a lot better visually. It's more colorful and detailed, and I think that it's also has better, of course, very subjective, but I think it has better music as well. I liked a lot of the music more in this one. I thought it was catchier and cooler, and that's me. And it controls really well. Not that like the previous one was bad, but it controls even a bit tighter than that, and it just feels really good. Man, this game is it's just got that layer of polish on top of it. They fine-tuned it very, very well. And I gotta say, like, I love that they added in the robot masters from the previous game in this way, because you replay these stages and it redoes the assets of those stages, but they're all still different stages. They're harder in their difficulty, so it's good for the difficulty curve. Plus, it makes it better than just throwing a boss rush at you with these guys also. You fight two of them, and they're kind of separated into two sections of the stages. So since if you already played Mega Man 2, it's kind of cool, because it's like, oh, well, let's... Like, I know their patterns, know how to avoid them and everything, but, I don't know what of these new items is, like, going to be good against them, what's their weakness, and you kind of have to feel that out, and also feel out how those weapons work, knowing how to use them to actually hit your enemy as well. And if you didn't play Mega Man 2, they're just, 8 new bosses for you to fight, and I think it's just a much better idea than trying to do the same old boss rush thing. You're able to fight 8 bosses with, when you're fully equipped with all your stuff, which is, I that was kind of the appeal of doing the whole boss rush thing in the first place, was to kind of show that stuff off and show how far you've come anyways. So I really like the way they implemented those into there, or it doesn't feel like it's wasting your time or padding or anything with that. Also, I want to mention this: the balance I think is really good. These stages are longer than before, than in the second one, but they're also a little easier and they're more varied. So they stay pretty interesting. They're cool to look at, and the music's cool to listen to, and it just feels, it feels very appropriate, where it's not like painfully difficult and super long or anything. It's a pretty good balance between those. When you get to the bosses, I think these are actually done really well too, the way they've been balanced, because they're not super powerful, kicking your ass all the time, completely easily fucking trounced when you have their weakness, like in the first game. And I think they did an even better job of balancing that here than in the second one, where for most of the bosses, even if you have their weakness, you still need to kind of figure out how to avoid them and not get hurt and not die, because you won't just kill them in 2 hits or something ridiculous like that. So it feels fair, where they don't feel like they do too much damage to you, and you don't feel like you do too much damage to them. And there's also a variance of there's usually something that's pretty effective against them, and then some other things that are also a little bit effective, a little more so than usual. There's some stuff that's just the usual effectiveness, but of course different patterns and whatnot based on what weapons you're using. And there's some of them that aren't effective at all, and I feel like the range of that is nice, because it does give you a bit more depth in how you tackle fighting these different bosses. They're giving you more options also, because of having more than just one singular weakness. Other ones that are different varying types of weakness, this isn't super great against this guy, but it's a little better than my standard gun. Maybe that'll be enough for you to go in a different order than maybe what should be typically suggested, by just using whatever thing is super good against one person, and going in that order every time. I think that opens up some good possibilities for that. Also think it was really cool, the rush thing is a neat way to implement, some characterization to your giving him a sidekick, do these extra little abilities rather than just making them generic, item 1, item 2, item 3. I think that was a cool addition. And the slide, I like the slide and its evasiveness, and the way that you risk getting hurt. You can't really attack when you're sliding, but it's very fast. It's a good way to get yourself out of the way in a pinch. And it's implemented in some pretty interesting ways to help, just help you, just be, I guess it just adds a little depth to the overall fighting and platforming mechanics of the game. So I think that's pretty interesting. And, I don't know, I mean, just in general, there's a lot of content here. There's a lot more to do here than I thought there'd be. And it's pretty impressive. It's all done really well, and I think it's got a good balance. It's got good polish. It's pretty fantastic. I only have a few things I thought were kind of about it, where like I said, while I appreciated the boss thing, where they added new bosses, there's still a boss rush near the end of the game anyways. That kind of sucks, because you're fighting the original 8 bosses, I suppose, but, that you fought in the beginning, but it's you already kind of had the good parts of that, of I'm fully equipped, I get to fight these guys now, I'm fully equipped. You already had that experience with these other ones, and they got their own stages, whereas this is just one room, fight all the guys. And there's still a little bit of I gotta know which order I want to do them, and which ones am I good at fighting, and I'm not going to take too much damage on, which ones do I need to kill easily so I can get some health back from the little bit of health they give me after I beat them. There's still a little bit of strategies in there, and there's still a bit of an appeal, and I guess it kind of is sort of a staple they wanted to keep, so I get it. I just don't think it was that great. It's not terrible, but it does feel kind of unnecessary, and in this case, this does kind of feel like padding that they didn't need, since it was already a pretty decently length experience anyways, with a password system that, has red and blue for different things in the number letter chart. That was just kind of weird. I didn't know how to write that down as effectively without it being kind of a hassle to remember what I did. Not a big deal, not a deal breaker, but, that could have been maybe a little better too. The other thing is that just with fighting these bosses in general, is that it is kind of tough to know what their weakness would be. It's not like you're logicking this out. Like, okay, this would be good against this because of this. Like before, like whatever. Like well, yeah. I guess like you would use the bomb to explode, like Bomb Man's thing to explode a thing for Guts Man, because it's like a bomb, and like it would blow up those rocks, and you would use rocks to beat Cut Man, because it's like, rock beats scissors, and rock, paper, scissors. You use the ice to put out Fireman. I guess. I mean, the ice would melt. Like, that one's a little weird, but you kind of have some logic to it, right? And here it's like, I don't know, what the fuck is good against Gemini? How this shit would I know? That's a really weird thing. And it really feels like a guessing game for a lot of it, rather than like actually like, oh yeah, this would be good against this because of this. Like, and that's the thing where like they have better designs, I guess, because of that. So they're not stuck to like, here's fire, here's ice, here's electric. You're not stuck to those things, but it's also like, like it's hard to tell. So it's kind of annoying to have that guessing game element to it, but you can kind of feel it out a little bit more, and it might make you be more experimental with it in the process, I guess. Also, the weird thing where, like, when you pause and then unpause, you, like, teleport back down to where you were. So, like, if you were on a ladder, you'll fall off the ladder. They kept that in this one. Why did they do that? It still is, like, it's a very minor thing, but why didn't they just not have that and just have you just stay where you were? Why what's the problem with that? I don't know, that's weird to me. And also I think it's a little bit of a shame that there is kind of like a weird, like a bit of story stuff, and like the game kind of ends on like a sort of a cliffhanger, I think. I guess once I play the next game I'll see. But like, it's weird that they would have this stuff like, oh, story stuff is happening there at the end of the game. And like, it's like, oh, like story stuff's happening now? Well, where was the story when I fucking started the game? Why not have something in the beginning to get me hooked? And to make some of this make sense, in case I didn't take the time to read the fucking manual. I don't know. Was that something they couldn't do for limitations of time or space or something? Or did they just think that people would read the back of the box and or the manual, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to waste time doing that shit. You already know about it. I don't know. I think that was a weird choice to do when they already has, scenes and stuff in other parts anyways. It seems strange to me. But I think that's mostly my complaints, I guess. Other than that, like it's all pretty well done for the most part, and I can't have too many complaints about anything that aren't too nitpicky, I guess. Yeah. So Mega Man 3, I guess ultimately what I'm saying is pretty good. It's got a good length to it. It's got good polish, good balance. It's got all this Mega Man stuff that people love. And God damn it, if you want to get a Mega Man game, I will highly recommend this one. Because it has all the Mega Man stuff, it has the extra length, and it's just has better replay value, I think. It's just great. And it still has a lot of the stuff that's very classic to Mega Man. And I would say maybe you could find it for up to $30 even would probably be worth it for this one. It probably goes for more for the actual NES cartridge, I don't really know. But it's probably available in also like various other forms, Legacy Collection, Anniversary Collection, all that stuff, eShops, whatever. So you probably won't have to pay that much, but I'm just saying that's probably about what it would be worth with the play value and the replay value of it. It's a good one to check out if you're a Mega Man fan, you've probably already played it, but if you've avoided it for some reason, do check it out. It's pretty great. If you're a fan of just classic NES games, this is definitely one to check out if you missed it. And, if you're just looking to get into Mega Man in general and you're wondering which one to try out, this one is a pretty damn good one. 2 and 3 are both good options. I would probably say try 3, because I think it's overall a little easier. Some people would disagree, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just crazy. But yeah, so I don't know. Those are probably my recommendations on that. And I also want to apologize that it is raining. It wasn't raining as hard, and now it's starting to rain a little harder. So I'm sorry if the background of this video sounds like poopy ass doo doo, as is the professional term, I believe. And after the weird cliffhanger thing that happened and how much I was impressed by this one, I gotta say I'm I'm pretty excited to check out Mega Man 4. So I just wanted to. Sorry if I sound rushed here. I wanted to pump this review out of my face, and so I could play that. So check out the written one in case I missed anything. Like in the other one where I forgot to mention about E-Tanks. I didn't mention it here either, but it's in the written one for the second one. So, that's why you gotta check that shit, man.
Mega Man.